The night Leah Bennett finally knocked on my door, I was standing in my kitchen eating cereal out of a coffee mug because all my bowls were dirty. That tells you almost everything about the glamorous life I was living at 33. It was 11:42 on a rainy Thursday, the kind of rain that made the windows look black and the whole apartment building sound like it was breathing. I had a deadline in the morning, a half-finished set of architectural drawings open on my laptop, and no intention of speaking to anyone until at least Saturday. Then came the knock. 3 quick taps, a pause, 2 softer ones. I knew it was her before I opened the door. Not because Leah and I were close. We weren't. That was the problem. I had spent 4 months making sure we weren't. She lived in 4B, I lived in 4A. Same hallway, same thin walls, same unreliable elevator, same view of the brick building across the alley. She had moved in at the beginning of September with 6 plants, 3 mismatched lamps, and a laugh that carried through drywall like warm light. I noticed her immediately. Of course I did. Leah was 31, an art teacher at the middle school 6 blocks away, with dark curls she usually pinned up with pencils and paint smudges on her wrists more often than jewelry. She had this way of looking at people like she was actually paying attention, which was dangerous if you were a man trying very hard not to be seen. And I was. Trying, I mean. After my engagement ended the year before, I had built a simple life out of work, takeout, and not getting attached to anyone who could one day stand in my kitchen and explain why loving me had become inconvenient. Then Leah moved in next door and ruined the quiet. She borrowed my stepladder the first week, returned it with banana bread. I avoided eating it for 2 days because accepting homemade food from a beautiful woman felt like the first step in a cautionary tale. Then I ate the whole loaf over my sink at midnight. After that, I got careful. If I heard her door open, I waited. If we reached the mailboxes at the same time, I pretended to forget something. If she smiled at me in the hallway, I gave her the sort of nod usually exchanged between men at gas stations. Polite, brief, emotionally useless. She noticed. Of course she did. One morning in November, she caught me trying to escape into the stairwell with a trash bag. "You know," she said, holding her coffee, "for neighbors, you and I have an impressive long-distance relationship." I should have laughed. I wanted to. Instead, I said, "I'm just bad with people before caffeine." She looked at the coffee in my hand. "It's full." I looked down at it like it had betrayed me. She smiled. "Interesting." That smile followed me into the stairwell and stayed there for 4 floors. So when she knocked that night, I knew something was wrong. Not because she needed me, but because Leah Bennett didn't strike me as the type of woman who knocked on a man's door at almost midnight unless she had already tried 5 better options. I opened it. She stood in the hallway in a green dress, soaked at the hem from the rain, one heel in her hand and the other still on her foot. Her curls had come loose around her face. Her eyeliner was a little smudged, but her chin was up, like she had argued with the entire world and refused to let it see her shake. For 1 second, I forgot every sensible thing I had ever told myself. Then she said, "Before you pretend you don't know me, I need a favor." My hand tightened on the door. "Are you okay?" "That depends on how convincing you are as a fake boyfriend." I blinked. Behind her, down the hallway near the elevator, a man's voice called, "Leah, come on, just talk to me." Her eyes didn't leave mine. Not frightened exactly, angry, embarrassed, tired. But underneath all that, there was something softer that made my chest tighten. "Do you want me to call security?" I asked. "I already did. He'll be gone in 2 minutes." She lifted her bare heel slightly. "I just need him to stop thinking I'm alone." That should have been simple. Step into the hallway, say a few words, close the door, return to my sad mug of cereal and my emotionally unavailable lifestyle. Instead, I opened the door wider. Leah's gaze flicked over my shoulder into my apartment, then back to me. "You're letting me in? I'm not letting you stand in the hallway with one shoe, and a bad man monologue happening behind you." Her mouth twitched. That was almost charming. "Don't spread it around." She stepped inside. The second she passed me, I caught the scent of rain and vanilla and something floral, probably from whatever shampoo women like Leah used to make men rethink their entire personalities. I closed the door but didn't latch it. Through the wood, the man's footsteps came closer. Leah, he said, I know you're in there. She closed her eyes for half a second. I kept my voice low. What's his name? Aaron, ex-fiancé, recently upgraded to public nuisance. There was the sharpness again. Not helpless. Leah had edges. I liked that more than I should have. I raised my voice just enough to carry. Babe, you want me to handle this or let security do it? Leah looked at me. Something changed in her face. Not relief exactly, recognition. Like she hadn't expected me to play along that easily. Like maybe she had expected me to stay behind the door where I'd been hiding for 4 months. The hallway went quiet. Then Aaron muttered something I couldn't make out, followed by the ding of the elevator. Leah exhaled, slow and controlled. I waited until the elevator doors closed before I turned the deadbolt. Tea? I asked. She stared at me. What? You just fake boyfriended a man through a door and now you're offering tea? I'm versatile. A laugh slipped out of her. Small, surprised, real. And there it was. The reason I had avoided her. Because making Leah Bennett laugh felt too good. She limped slightly toward my kitchen, still holding one heel. Do you have anything stronger than tea? I have old whiskey and emotional baggage. Tempting, but tea is fine. I filled the kettle while she stood near my counter, looking around like she was learning things about me against my will. The rolled blueprints. The single plant she had once told me was bravely dying. The stack of clean bowls sitting in the dishwasher I had not unloaded. Her gaze landed on the coffee mug in the sink. Were you eating cereal out of that? I glanced at it. No. Miles. I hated how good my name sounded in her voice. Yes. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. I handed her a towel from the drawer. Our fingers brushed when she took it. It was nothing, less than nothing. But the warmth of her skin moved up my arm like a warning. She wrapped the towel around her shoulders and leaned back against my counter. Why do you avoid me? She asked. Just like that, no warm-up, no mercy. I opened a cabinet and took down 2 mugs slowly, buying time I didn't have. I don't avoid you. You once waited inside your apartment for 12 minutes because you heard me talking to Mrs. Alvarez by the elevator. I turned. How would you know that? I could see your shadow under the door. I looked at the floor. She laughed again, softer this time. Relax. I'm not mad. You're not? No. Her smile faded just a little. I just wondered if I'd done something wrong. That hit harder than it should have, because she was standing in my kitchen, wet from the rain, brave enough to ask directly for what most people only punish you for not explaining. No, I said, you didn't. Then what? The kettle began to hum behind me. I could have lied. I was good at that kind of lie, not cruel ones, just small evasions, busy with work, bad at neighbors, private person. But Leah's eyes were on me, and for the first time in 4 months, I was tired of being a coward in my own hallway. So I said, you make quiet feel less safe. She went still. I cleared my throat. That sounded better in my head. No, she said carefully. It didn't sound bad. The rain tapped against the windows, the kettle clicked off. Neither of us moved. Then her phone buzzed on the counter where she had set it down. Once. Twice. She glanced at the screen and all the color left her face in one slow, visible wave. I looked before I could stop myself. A text from Aaron. Tell your boyfriend I'll see him tomorrow at your sister's engagement party. Leah shut her eyes. I stared at the phone, then at her. She opened them and gave me a smile so thin it almost broke. So, she said, there's one more thing I probably should have mentioned. There's one more thing I probably should have mentioned. Leah said it like a woman standing beside a small kitchen fire she had decided to call ambiance. I looked from her phone to her face. Your sister's engagement party? Yes. Tomorrow. Yes. And your ex-fiancé thinks I'm attending as your boyfriend. She pressed her lips together. Technically, you invited yourself when you called me babe. I was improvising. You were very convincing. That's not a legal contract. No, but it did have emotional range. I dragged a hand down my face. Leah reached for her phone, then stopped before touching it, like the screen might bite. I'm sorry, really. I never meant to pull you into anything beyond the hallway. The kettle sat between us, cooling by the second. I should have said no. Any sane man would have. I barely knew her. She barely knew me. We had exchanged fewer than 50 sentences in 4 months, and at least 10 of mine had been about elevator maintenance. But she stood in my kitchen in that rain dark green dress, pretending not to look humiliated. And all I could think was that Erin had probably spent years learning exactly where to press until she folded. And I hated that. More inconveniently, I liked that Leah still hadn't folded. Why does he care if you bring someone? I asked. My family loved Erin. She laughed once, without humor. Actually, no. My family loved the version of Erin he performed at brunch. And tomorrow he's invited? My sister's fiancé is his cousin. I winced. That's an aggressively inconvenient family tree. Right? Her shoulders loosened a fraction. Anyway, I was planning to go alone, smile until my cheeks cracked, and leave early. Then Erin showed up tonight to talk sense into me. Meaning? Meaning he wants me back because seeing me single makes him think the door's still open. She finally picked up her phone and turned it face down. Apparently, my imaginary boyfriend has now slammed it. There was something almost hopeful in the way she said it. That hope did me in. I poured hot water over tea bags I didn't remember choosing. What time? Leah blinked. What? The party. No. She shook her head. Miles, I wasn't asking. I know. You have work. I always have work. You don't even like parties. I don't even like most people. Her mouth tilted. That's true. And yet. She studied me for a long moment. Rain streaked the window behind her. The kitchen light softened the sharp worry at the edges of her face. Why would you do this? She asked. Because your laugh makes my apartment feel less empty. Because I have been pretending not to want you since September. Because when you looked at me like I might be safe, something in me wanted to become worthy of it. I said, because you brought me banana bread. Her eyes narrowed. 4 months ago? It was excellent bread. A real smile appeared then, slow, bright, dangerous. Fine, she said, but if you're going to be my fake boyfriend, we need a story. We met as neighbors. Too boring. That's literally what happened. Romance requires editing, Miles. I leaned back against the opposite counter, folding my arms. All right, you tell it. She tapped her chin, considering me. We hated each other at first. I don't hate you. I know, that's what makes it fun. I tried not to smile and failed. She noticed? Of course she noticed. Her gaze dropped to my mouth for half a second, and the room changed temperature. Just a little. Enough. She looked away first, wrapping both hands around her mug. We met when I needed a ladder. You were grumpy, but secretly kind. Secretly. You hide it under all that flannel and emotional frost. I'm not wearing flannel. Not tonight, but spiritually. I laughed. It surprised both of us. Leah's expression softened in a way that felt more intimate than if she had touched me. There, she said quietly. I knew you could. The words landed somewhere behind my ribs. I looked down into my tea. For a minute we stood there, not speaking, just listening to the rain and the old pipes knocking in the walls. It should have felt awkward, it didn't. It felt like the kind of silence you only earn after knowing someone longer than one rainy night. Finally, she said, Your turn. My turn for what? Girlfriend interview. If we're selling this, I need facts. Favorite food? Cereal, apparently. No, real answer. Thai. Good. Mine is pasta in any emotionally significant form. Favorite movie? Rear Window. She pointed at me. That explains so much. What does that mean? You're a watcher. I stopped. She said it gently, not accusing, like she had seen the shape of me and wasn't offended by it. I used to be less boring, I said. Her teasing faded. Before? I didn't ask how she knew there was a before. Before my ex-fiancé left, I said. Leah's fingers tightened around her mug. She decided 3 months before the wedding that she didn't want a life that looked like ours, like mine. I shrugged, though it felt too heavy. Quiet apartment. Deadlines, weekends at home, me. That was cruel. It was honest. Those can overlap. Leah stepped closer, just one small step. For what it's worth, quiet doesn't scare me. I looked at her. No? No. Her voice went softer. Lonely does. The air between us thinned. She was close enough now that I could see a tiny gold fleck near her left iris. Close enough that if I reached out, my fingers could brush the damp curl resting against her cheek. I didn't, but I wanted to. And wanting felt like the first dangerous thing I'd allowed myself in a year. Leah set her mug down. We should practice. My brain unhelpfully offered several interpretations. Practice? Being convincing. The corner of her mouth lifted, but her cheeks colored. Relax. I mean holding hands. Right. Unless hand-holding is too advanced for your emotional frost. You're enjoying this. A little. She offered her hand. I looked at it for one ridiculous second like it was a legal document. Then I took it. Her hand was smaller than mine, warm from the mug, her fingers sliding between mine with careful confidence. A simple touch. Innocent. It hit me harder than Aaron's text. Leah inhaled softly. I glanced at her. Okay. Yes, she said, but her voice had changed. You? No. Her eyes widened. Yes, I laughed under my breath. This is not going to be difficult to fake. There it was. Too honest. Her fingers tightened around mine. No, she whispered. It isn't. For a moment, neither of us pretended. Then a loud buzz broke through the apartment. Not her phone. Mine. I reached for it with my free hand still holding hers because letting go suddenly felt rude. The building's front desk number flashed across the screen. I answered. Miles Carter. Mr. Carter, the night doorman said, voice uneasy. Sorry to bother you. There's a man downstairs asking for Ms. Bennett. Says he forgot his coat in your apartment. Leah's face hardened. I looked at our joined hands, then at her. This time, she didn't look alone. She looked at me like she wanted me beside her. So I squeezed her hand once and said into the phone, Tell him he's mistaken. And if he doesn't leave, call the police. Then I hung up before the night could take more from us. Leah swallowed. Miles. I'll go tomorrow, I said. Her eyes searched mine. To the party? She asked. I nodded. As your boyfriend. Her thumb moved lightly over my knuckle. Fake boyfriend, she corrected, but neither of us sounded convinced. Leah left my apartment at 1:13 a.m. wearing my old gray hoodie over her green dress. She tried to give it back at her door. I said, keep it for tomorrow. For authenticity? For the rain. She looked down the empty hallway, then back at me. You know, for a fake boyfriend, you're dangerously considerate. I'll work on being worse. Please don't. The softness in her voice followed me to sleep, which was unfortunate because I didn't sleep much. By 5, I had imagined every possible version of the engagement party. Aaron causing a scene, Leah's family interrogating me forgetting some critical boyfriend detail and accidentally claiming her favorite color was cereal. By 9, I was standing in front of my closet, realizing my wardrobe said divorced accountant at a funeral, despite the fact that I had never been married and was not an accountant. At 2 p.m., Leah knocked. This time, I opened the door too, quickly. Her eyebrows rose. Were you waiting behind it? No. Shadow under the door, Miles. I looked down. She laughed, and then I saw her properly. She wore a soft blue dress under a camel coat, her curls pinned loosely at the nape of her neck. Small gold earrings, brown boots, my hoodie folded over one arm. She looked beautiful in a way that made me forget the mechanics of speech. Is this okay? She asked, suddenly uncertain. I frowned. Is what okay? Me? This? She gestured at herself. I'm trying to look like a woman who has her life together and did not panic eat crackers for breakfast. You look... I stopped before the word devastating escaped and ruined both our lives. You look like nobody there deserves you. Her expression changed. Not big. Just a pause. A breath. Like the compliment had found a bruise and warmed it. Careful, she said. That sounded real. It was. The hallway went quiet around us, then she shoved my hoodie into my chest. Here, before I make bad decisions. I took it, smiling despite myself. We have a pre-party meeting? We need ground rules. Okay. No kissing unless necessary. My brain went completely blank. She looked amused. You froze. I'm processing the legal language. No dramatic declarations. No calling Aaron a weasel, even if accurate. No telling my mother we're moving in together because she'll start pricing China. Noted. And if at any point you want to leave, you tell me this is my mess. You are allowed to escape. I leaned against my doorframe. Leah. What? I'm not looking for the exit. Her smile faded at the edges. Then she reached out and adjusted my collar. It was a small thing, familiar and intimate, her fingertips brushing my throat for half a second. You clean up well, she said. You sound surprised. I've mostly seen you in hallway goblin mode. Architectural hermit, I corrected. Right, much sexier. The word landed between us with a spark. She heard it too. Color rose along her cheeks, but she didn't take it back. The party was at a restaurant downtown with warm lights, white tablecloths, and too many people who knew Leah better than I did but watched me like I was the headline. On the way in, she slipped her hand into mine. This time, she didn't ask. This time, I didn't hesitate. Her palm fit against mine like the answer to a question I had been refusing to ask. You okay? I murmured. No, she said brightly through a smile. But your hand is nice. I almost tripped over absolutely nothing. Her sister Emma found us first. She was blonde where Leah was dark, bubbly where Leah was dry, and wearing a diamond ring large enough to require zoning approval. You came! Emma hugged Leah, then turned to me with open curiosity. And you brought someone. Leah squeezed my hand. This is Miles. Boyfriend Miles? Emma asked. Leah glanced at me. It was the smallest opening. I could have kept it easy. Fake, polite. Instead, I lifted Leah's hand and kissed her knuckles. Lucky Miles, I said. Leah's mouth parted. Emma made a sound only sisters can make, half delight, half blackmail material. Oh, I like him, she said. Leah recovered by elbowing me lightly once Emma turned away. That was not in the plan. You said no dramatic declarations. That was a minor gesture. That was advanced boyfriending. I'm versatile. She tried not to smile. Failed. For the first hour, we performed. We told the latter story with edits. She claimed she fell for me when I returned her banana bread container washed. I claimed she seduced me with baked goods and criticism of my plant care. Her aunt asked how long we'd been dating, and Leah said, long enough that he knows not to talk to me before coffee. Long enough, I added, that I do it anyway. Leah turned to me, eyes narrowing. He enjoys danger. I wanted absurdly to keep doing this, standing close, trading lines, feeling her relax every time I chose her publicly, not just as a shield, but as if it mattered to me that people saw her wanted. Then Aaron arrived. I felt her hand stiffen before I saw him. He was handsome in the polished way of men who checked mirrors and reflective spoons. Navy suit, easy smile, dead eyes when they landed on me. Leah, he said, you look beautiful. Thank you. He looked at our joined hands. And this must be the neighbor. I smiled. Miles. Aaron shook my hand too hard. I let him. How sudden, he said. Leah's chin lifted. Not really. No. Funny. Last month you told your mother you weren't seeing anyone. The little circle around us went quiet. I felt the old instinct to fix, to step in front, to make myself useful. But Leah didn't need a wall. She needed someone beside her. So I waited. She took a breath. Last month I wasn't ready to talk about him. Her thumb brushed mine, once. A choice. Aaron laughed softly. Convenient. I turned my head to Leah. Want some air? She looked at me, gratitude and something warmer crossing her face. Yes. I didn't look back at Aaron as we walked out to the restaurant's covered patio. The cold hit first. Then the quiet. Rain threaded silver through the streetlights beyond the awning. Leah let go of my hand only to wrap both arms around herself. I'm sorry, she said. If you apologize again, I'm telling your aunt we met at a pottery retreat. A laugh broke out of her, shaky but real. I stepped closer. You handled him. I wanted to throw a bread roll at his head. That would also have been handling him. She looked up at me. Under the patio lights, her eyes were bright. Thank you for not speaking for me. The words were simple, but I understood what they cost her to say. You're not hard to trust, I said. She went still. I hadn't meant to say it like that. Quiet, honest, bare. Leah's gaze dropped to my mouth again, and this time she didn't look away quickly. Miles, she whispered. This is starting to feel less fake. My heartbeat kicked. Is that bad? I don't know. She stepped closer, close enough that her coat brushed mine. I'm trying to decide if I'm scared because of Aaron or because of you. I don't want you scared of me. I'm not. Her hand came to my chest, resting there lightly. That's the problem. The rain filled the silence. I lifted my hand slowly, giving her every chance to move away, and touched one damp curl near her cheek. She leaned into it. That small surrender undid me. I avoided you, I said, because I knew if I started wanting you, I wouldn't do it halfway. Her eyes softened. And now? Now I'm standing outside an engagement party hoping my fake girlfriend lets me kiss her. Her breath caught. Then Leah rose on her toes and kissed me first. It was gentle for about 2 seconds. Then her fingers curled in my jacket, and my hand slid to her waist, and the whole miserable year behind me seemed to go silent. She tasted like champagne and rain and a risk I wanted badly enough to stop pretending I was safe without it. When we broke apart, she stayed close. That, she said, a little breathless, was definitely not necessary. No? She shook her head. But it was convincing. I smiled against her temple. For the first time all night, her body relaxed fully into mine. Behind us, the patio door opened. Emma poked her head out, grinning like Christmas had come early. Sorry to interrupt, she said, not sounding sorry at all. But Mom wants a photo of the happy couple. Leah looked at me. Not Aaron, not the room, me. Ready? She asked. I took her hand. This time, it didn't feel like acting. Yeah, I said, I am. The photo should have been harmless. Just Leah and me beneath a garland of white lights, her mother insisting we stand closer, Emma making hard eyes from behind the photographer, and my hand resting at Leah's waist like it had always belonged there. Closer, her mother called. Leah muttered, if we get any closer, we'll qualify as one person. I leaned down. I'm willing to commit to the role. She smiled right as the flash went off. That was the picture everyone loved. Leah laughing up at me looking at her like I had forgotten there was a room, which unfortunately I had. After that, the party became easier, not because Aaron left, he didn't, but because Leah stopped shrinking when she felt him watching. She stayed beside me by choice. She teased me over the tiny appetizers. She stole the olive from my drink even though I told her it was legally mine. You don't even like olives, she said. How do you know? You made a face. I have a mysterious face. You have an honest face pretending to be mysterious. I should have objected, but she was right. Around 10, we ended up at a small table near the windows with 2 slices of cake between us and no witnesses close enough to hear. It felt dangerously like a date. Leah pointed her fork at my plate. You eat cake like a man with unresolved trust issues. I'm saving the frosting for last. Exactly. You're afraid joy will run out. I stared at her. She froze. That was supposed to be a joke. It was a very accurate joke. Her expression softened. Miles. I scraped some frosting onto my fork and held it out to her. Here, before you psychoanalyze dessert. She looked at the fork, then at me. Are you feeding me cake in public? Apparently. This is either romantic or extremely bold for a man who hid from me in a stairwell. I'm growing. She leaned forward and took the bite. It was nothing. A fork, cake, her mouth. My entire body disagreed. Her eyes stayed on mine as she swallowed. Good frosting. My voice came out lower. Yeah? Very trustworthy. I laughed under my breath, and she smiled like she had earned it. Then Aaron appeared beside the table. Just like that, the night tilted. Leah, he said. Can we talk privately? No, she answered. He glanced at me. I wasn't asking you. She answered anyway, I said. Leah touched my knee under the table, not a warning, a steadying hand. For me, maybe. For herself, too. Aaron's jaw tightened. You really expect everyone to believe this? 4 months living next door to him, and suddenly he's the love of your life? The words hit too close. Not because he was right, because I wished he were. Leah stood slowly. What I expect is for you to stop embarrassing yourself. A few heads turned. Aaron lowered his voice. You're making a mistake. No, she said. I made one 2 years ago. I'm correcting it. Something flashed across his face. Anger, then calculation. He looked at me. Ask her why she really ended our engagement. Leah went pale. For 1 second, I hated him. Then she turned and walked away, not fast, not dramatic, just gone, through the side hallway toward the restrooms. I started after her. Aaron stepped into my path. She didn't tell you? I looked at him and felt an old, cold part of myself wake up. Move, he smiled. Careful, fake boyfriends shouldn't get so invested. That should have embarrassed me. Instead, it clarified everything. I'm not invested because of the title, I said. I'm invested because she's Leah. His smile thinned. I went around him. I found her at the end of the hallway near the coat room, standing beneath a framed painting of the harbor. Her arms were folded tight, her face turned away. Hey, I said. She wiped quickly under one eye. If you're here to ask what he meant, get in line. Apparently it's a popular topic. I'm here because you left. She laughed once, sharp and sad. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters right now. She looked at me then, and the vulnerability in her face punched straight through my ribs. I didn't end it for some noble reason, she said. I didn't catch him cheating. He didn't hit me. There's no clean story that makes people nod and stop asking. You don't owe me clean. Her mouth trembled. I ended it, she said, because one morning I realized I was practicing how to be smaller before breakfast. Quieter, easier, less opinionated, less tired, less myself. She swallowed. And then he told me he loved me because I was so adaptable. I stayed still. She looked away. That was it. That was the big scandal. I left because I didn't want to disappear politely. The hallway hummed with distant music. I stepped closer, slowly. Leah. What? I'm really glad you didn't. Her eyes filled again, but this time she didn't hide it. I reached for her hand. She gave it to me. I hate that everyone thinks I should have a better reason, she whispered. I brought her hand to my chest. Being yourself is the reason. She stared at our joined hands, then leaned forward until her forehead rested against my sternum. I wrapped my arms around her. Not for the room, not for Aaron, not for any performance, just because I wanted to hold her, and she wanted to be held. I'm not adaptable, she mumbled into my jacket. No, I'm stubborn. I overwater plants, I grade essays with glitter pens. I talk during movies if the characters are being idiots. A monster. And I eat olives I did not order. That one hurt. She laughed wetly and I kissed the top of her head before I could overthink it. She lifted her face. You keep doing that. What? Choosing me when no one is watching. My throat tightened. Leah, I think that's the only kind that counts. The hallway seemed to disappear. She rose on her toes and kissed me, softer than on the patio, but deeper somehow, like a question she was brave enough to ask twice. I answered with my hands at her waist, pulling her closer until the last of the shake left her body. When we parted, she touched my cheek. Come home with me? My pulse jumped. She smiled gently. For tea, Miles. Right. Tea. And maybe unloading your dishwasher emotionally. That sounds invasive. It'll be good for you. We said our goodbyes 10 minutes later. Emma hugged Leah too tightly and whispered something that made her blush. Her mother kissed my cheek and told me I had kind eyes, which nearly killed me on the spot. Outside, the rain had stopped. We walked home because Leah said she needed air and I said I didn't mind, though I would have followed her across the city in worse weather than that. Halfway there, she slipped her hand into my coat pocket where mine already was. No one can see us, I said. I know. Her fingers found mine in the dark warmth of the pocket. That was the moment I stopped lying to myself. At her apartment door, she turned to me. Do you want to come in? Yes, I said. Her smile flickered, nervous and pleased. Good. Inside her apartment was exactly what I had imagined, and nothing like it. Color everywhere. Books stacked sideways, plants in various states of optimism. A blue sofa with a yellow blanket, a half-finished canvas facing the window. She kicked off her boots. Don't judge the mess. I eat cereal from mugs. Fair. She made tea. I wandered to the canvas. It was my building across the alley at dusk, and in one lit window, a man stood with a mug in his hand. Me. I turned slowly. Leah stood in the kitchen doorway, caught. I wasn't stalking you, she said quickly. I paint windows, light. People passing through, you just kept appearing. I looked back at the canvas. For months, I had thought I was the only one watching from a safe distance. You saw me, I said. Her voice softened. Yes. The truth settled between us, warm and terrifying. My phone buzzed. Then hers. At the same time. We both looked down. Emma had sent the photo from the party. Leah laughing up at me looking gone. Under it, one message. Mom wants to know if you two are free for Sunday dinner. Leah's eyes widened. Then Aaron's name appeared on her screen with a new text. Enjoy playing house. It won't last. Her smile vanished. I took one step toward her, but she lifted a hand not to stop me, to reach for me. I crossed the room and took it. She looked up, shaken but not retreating. Stay? She asked. I threaded my fingers through hers. Yeah, I said. I'm staying. I stayed. Not in the dramatic way, not with declarations or a heroic stance by the door. I stayed on Leah's blue sofa while she made tea with hands that trembled less each minute. I stayed while she blocked Aaron's number, then unblocked it long enough to send one message. Do not contact me again. If you come to my home or approach me, I'll involve the police. Then she blocked him again. She set the phone face down on the counter and looked at me like she expected the apartment to crack open. It didn't. The plants leaned toward the windows. The kettle hissed. Rainwater dripped from the fire escape outside. Life, annoyingly, continued. Leah laughed once, shaky. That felt too easy. Good things are allowed to be easy sometimes. She gave me a look. Says the man who avoided me for 4 months because I owned a smile and a banana bread recipe. I never claimed to be wise. No, she said, coming closer. But you're learning. She sat beside me close enough that her knee touched mine. For a while we didn't talk. She leaned against my shoulder and I rested my cheek against her hair. No audience, no fake story, no ex-fiancé to convince. Just Leah choosing to be near me, and me choosing not to run from what that meant. Eventually she whispered, I don't want tonight to become only about him. It won't. How do you know? I turned toward her. Because when I remember tonight, I'm going to remember you stealing my olive, and eating cake off my fork, and kissing me on a patio like you were tired of waiting for me to get brave. Her cheeks warmed. I was tired of waiting. I gathered. And for the record, I wasn't waiting for you to rescue me. I know. Her eyes searched mine. I wanted you to see me. I do. The words came out quiet, but they filled the room. Leah touched my jaw with her fingertips. Then say something real. I swallowed. There were 100 safer things I could have said. That I liked her. That tonight had been unexpected. That we should take things slowly. All true. None enough. I was lonely before you moved in, I said. And I told myself I liked it because that was easier than admitting I'd been left. Then you showed up with your plants and your glitter pens and your suspiciously good banana bread, and suddenly my quiet life felt less peaceful and more like a locked room. Her eyes softened. I don't want to go back to that room, I said. Not if there's a chance you're on the other side of the door. Leah's breath caught. Then she kissed me. This time there was no performance in it. No need. Her mouth was warm and sure, her hands sliding into my hair as if she had every right to touch me that way. And I wanted her to. I wanted the mess of her apartment, the brightness of her laugh, the terrifying honesty of being known. I wanted mornings where she talked before coffee and nights where she painted by the window. I wanted to learn the difference between her sad silence and her thinking silence. When she pulled back, she rested her forehead against mine. "I don't want fake," she whispered. "Neither do I." "So, what are we doing?" I smiled. "Badly negotiating a first date after pretending to date in front of your entire family." "That sounds like us. Dinner tomorrow?" She tilted her head. "Are you asking as my neighbor or my fake boyfriend? As the man who wants to be your real one?" Her smile arrived slowly, beautiful enough to make my chest ache. "Then yes," she said. "Dinner tomorrow." Aaron didn't disappear overnight, but he faded fast once Leah stopped answering and started documenting. Her sister's fiancé handled the family side with one firm conversation. Leah's mother, to her credit, apologized for ever calling Aaron misunderstood. "He's understood perfectly," Leah told me later. "People just don't like the translation." Our first real date was Thai food eaten on my living room floor because the restaurant lost our reservation, and Leah declared that my apartment needed emergency warmth. She brought candles. I unloaded the dishwasher before she arrived. She noticed. "You're growing as a person," she said solemnly. "I did it for you." "I know, that's why it's romantic." By the third date, she had a key to my apartment for plant intervention purposes. By the fifth, I had learned that Leah cried during animated movies, hated carnations, and graded papers with tiny, encouraging stars because, in her words, middle school is a battlefield and everyone deserves sparkle. By the 10th, I stopped counting. We didn't rush. Some nights, we slept in our own apartments, separated by one wall and a dozen unspoken goodnights. Some nights, she came over in socks and stole my blankets. Some mornings, I found sketches of me on scrap paper, me cooking, me working, me frowning at my dying plant like it had betrayed our family. One evening, months later, I came home and found a fresh loaf of banana bread outside my door. On top was a note. "For the man in 4A who finally learned how to open doors." I carried it next door instead of eating it alone over the sink. Leah opened before I knocked twice, wearing paint-splattered overalls and a pencil in her curls. "You're ruining my mysterious gesture," she said. I held up the bread. I refused to emotionally regress. "Proud of you." Then she kissed me in the hallway, right there between 4A and 4B, where I had once wasted 4 months pretending not to want her. 6 months after that rainy night, we took down the wall between us in the only way the building allowed. We moved into a bigger apartment on the 5th floor with better light. Leah filled it with color. I filled it with shelves. We both filled it with the kind of quiet that didn't feel lonely. And sometimes, when rain hit the windows late at night, I'd find her painting by the glass. I'd stand behind her, wrap my arms around her waist, and watch our reflection appear over the city lights. Her curls against my cheek, her hands stained with blue, my face no longer looking like a man waiting for life to pass safely by. The woman next door knocked once. I opened, and somehow that was the beginning of home. What would you have done if the woman next door you'd been avoiding for months knocked late at night and asked you to pretend to be her boyfriend? Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell your story in the comments. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.